Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Saturday, another session at Azure Zero to Hero. We are happy that there is another Saturday. We are come together and going to have another amazing session. This time again about SQL in Azure and together with Taiob Ali. So if you haven't joined us yet, please go through that link aka.ms/join zero to hero to be part of Azure Zero to Hero community. And I'm going fast a bit with slides today because we are going to have a long session together with Tayoub Ali and then maybe a long demo session. So, have you heard about Microsoft Learn community? It's not just a platform for learning, it's a vibrant hub where learners like us come together, connect, and engage and empower each other to achieve our career goals. And also imagine having the latest updates, news, and opportunity to join engaging conversation right at your fingertips. So that's exactly what you get when you do dive into Microsoft Learn Hub community. And ever wish you could directly connect with experts and flow learners. So now you can. Thanks to our Learn New Hub, and you can join us with the link ak.ms/Microsoft Learn Community. And if you want to find the other rooms to be able to join, aka.ms/learning rooms. So there is a richest place that you can learn and be connect with rest of experts in the community. Soon we are going to have AI skills challenge. So we encourage you to be part of this really fancy and cool challenges so you can learn about AI and you can go through that different challenges to be part of the AI world. And as you know, AI is really important right now, and we need to learn about that. So this is a great opportunity that you can learn more about AI with different type of learning path. So aka.ms/AI skills challenge is waiting for you. Check out this link and enjoy that. Also, we have code of conduct. So we would love you be aware of others, be friendly and patient, be welcoming and respectful, be open to all questions and viewpoints, be understanding of differences, and also be kind and considerate to others. With that said, and I'm going to stop this one. We have Tayob Ali, Microsoft Data Platform MVP, is an accomplished technical leader with a proven record of success during his last 17 years. He has worked with Microsoft Data Platform and MongoDB, both on-premise and cloud. His experiences included all three major business sectors like finance, e-commerce, and healthcare. Tayob worked at GMO LLC as database solution manager, focusing on cloud migrating, automation, improving, and streamline operational workflow. He regularly speaks at local and international conferences, SQL Saturday and Azure conferences. He's a board member of a New England SQL Server user group, founder of Database Professional Virtual Meetup Group, and organizer of Boston SQL Saturday. So, hello, Tayu. Welcome to our session.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And, I'm really excited to be presenting today. Thanks.
Amazing. So, stage yours, man, and everyone. Hope you enjoy this session.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. And I really, thanks the organizer, taking time out of their weekend on a Saturday and, doing this for the community. And hopefully all of you understand that these are all volunteer work. So, kudos to all the organizers. They arranged this, set this up, and hosting today. So one before I move further, if you have any question, comments, if you think I'm going too fast, you didn't understand something, you want me to repeat or you want me to clarify, please put in the chat. I'm watching the chat and I will definitely answer the questions. So Other thing is I will try to keep this session probably less than 30 minutes talking about it, and then I want to dive into the demo. And when I go into demo, I will let you choose from a menu of what are the demos that you want to see, because I prepared a lot of demos. If I have to show this, all of this is going to take a long time. And but I'll share the content through my GitHub repo, so you can download and do it by yourself. So let's move ahead and try to go. I'll try to go through some slides, talk about few things, and then we'll dive into the demo. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about myself that much. Or the only one thing I want you to take a note is that my contact on the left side, because after this session, if you ever want to reach out to me regarding this or any other topic regarding Microsoft Data Platform, sometime I don't know the answer. I'll be honest with you, I'm not the smartest one, but I can reach out to people that I know and I can get an answer for you. So just take a note. I'll share this again at the end, and I guarantee you that I'll always answer your whatever way you want to reach out to me, and might not be right away, but within few days. Now, throughout the slides, in a lot of places you will see that I have a lot of links that I put in, like this picture. If you go behind the scene, as you see in the screen, is going to take you to a learn page, which you used to call books online previously. If you are in the middle of migration, thinking of migration, or you are just testing it, playing it, talking about it, this page is your one-stop shop for Microsoft's cloud, Azure. This page, I'm not going to go there and explain all this. You can do it in your own leisure, but this is the page that you want to land every time and then find anything you need. So this pretty much explains migrations from all kind of platform to all flavors of Microsoft databases, whether it's Azure SQL database, on premises, different version, and Postgres, pretty much everything. They also have use cases. So depending on what business you are in or your company in, you can go, okay, if you're in healthcare, okay, who from healthcare industry went through a large migration, and you can read about their experience. So that page will talk about migration path, will talk about tools, how you can assess and all that. So definitely bookmark that. Now, these are some of the resources, and this is not a full list, right? So I put this here, and if you see at the bottom, there is a link here. Again, this is another Microsoft post by someone at Microsoft. I know this page is a little bit old. It's from 2019, almost 5 years. It actually was published in March 2019, but I think it is still relevant to understand how Microsoft designed their different services in Azure, right? Different past databases, and what are the thought process behind it, right? How do they, charge you different price stack, and then how do they decide that what do you get, what is the limitation, how do they set those limits, right? So this will be a very good reading. I know it's very old, but I would still encourage you to, if you are doing anything with Azure SQL databases, you definitely want to read this. And I pretty much took this from that web page. So I'll just give you one example. I'm not going to talk about all this because that itself can become a whole session. So I'll just take one topic out of here, like say for example, logs generation rate maximum. Uh, on premises, historically, in my experience, we were not that cognizant of log generation rate, right? Unless you work in a very highly transactional, high throughput industry, so like some of the healthcare, with like large clinics. Like I used to work for a company that had like thousands of people are doing dialysis at the same time all across US, and the data was getting feed into our database, or you have high frequency trading in financial industry. Other than that, you pretty much don't care about log generation rates. But in Azure, you very much have to know how much log you are generating. and the service that you are deploying, what is the maximum limit of log generation? Why is that a problem? Because now Microsoft gave you an SLA, right? So it's a contract between the customer and the Microsoft, between in a contract between you and Microsoft. So how does Microsoft make sure that those SLAs are maintained, right? So in terms of database recovery availability, in terms of high availability, disaster recovery, all this, how do Microsoft, and a predictable performance. So you only bought a lower SKU, now you are generating huge log. Microsoft has to, move this transaction logs to a different, either to a different region or to a different, whatever it is, right? It has to maintain those for the SLAs that Microsoft promised to you. So in those cases, Microsoft actually is going to cap your log generation rate. So there is a new word type was introduced, and so you should be aware. I'm just trying to give you some content of, your mindset, what you need to start looking at when you are, moving from on premises to cloud. So now let's talk about some options, uh, from on-premises to Azure SQL databases. So historically, right? Historically, when we were on premises, we did not think about that much, right? We'll always just, within our own data center, we'll think about, what kind of hardware we need and what is the major version that we want to migrate to. But now you have more options, right? Now you want to move from your on premises to Azure SQL database. Now you have to think about what flavor of Azure SQL database. Right? So within the Azure SQL database, you have PaaS services, and then you have managed instance, you have hyperscale, and I'm even not talking about Azure Synapse. And then you also have SQL servers on Azure VM. So that's another option. So now you see your menu you have a bigger menu. So you need to know pretty much the pros and cons of all this, what is inside of all these offerings, and what is ideal for you, right? So now you have a bigger menu, you have bigger options, and we'll dive into a little bit more into each of these, right? And see, uh, what are the things that you have to consider. This is a copy paste, as you can see on the top left, someone draw this, and there are different flavor of this same concept you will see all over whenever people talk about moving to cloud. And it doesn't matter whether you move to, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, it's the same concept. And this is something I want you to think about before you even start your migration, otherwise you're going to regret. And this is a decision that I oftentimes see that the database professionals, they think that it's solely on them. So they decide and then they go and recommend, which I strongly, disagree, and I have a strong opinion about it. I think this is something that you should decide as your whole company, business owners, your security and risk management team, network team, systems team. Sometimes if I understand if you're working for a startup, maybe, you don't have all these silos, maybe, you yourself probably doing bunch of work, right? And then if you have a audit department or legal, everyone has to have input into this, because as soon as you move to cloud, you are giving out some of the controls. And is your company ready to give out those controls? So I can give you some quick examples. Uh, Today on premises, I can control what time I want to get a patch in non-production or production. I can decide I don't want a patch. I want to wait this many days. Or I can, even if I applied something, I can go and revert it, right? Roll back. You lose control of all of those. Today on premises, I can decide that I want to take a full backup exactly once a week on Sunday, right at 8 p.m. I want to take a differential backup at 9 p.m. Monday to Saturday. I want to take a transactional log backup exactly every 5 minutes, 6 minutes, or 10 minutes, whatever. You lose control of this. Yes, in Azure, they also will take full differential and transactional log backups, but you do not control the time. So I'm just giving you a couple of examples, like maintenance, upgrades. If you're most likely will be on a virtual environment, so you will be shifted from, underneath, your physical hosts, and for many different reasons, and you lose control of this. So make sure that your partners in your company understand that what you are giving up, and based on that, you have to make some decisions. This is the chart that I created, and it's nothing that I invented. This is all Microsoft's public information. If you go to Learn website, you will find all this. But I just summarized it that this can give you a starting point of some of the discussions with your partners, and also can help you in making the decision that what flavor or what SQ or where you want to land with your migration. Right? There's some limitations. There are some stuff you can do in there's some other stuff you cannot do, right? uh, and there are also some footnotes, right? Like I said, like backups, you do not have to do backups for Azure SQL database and Azure SQL managed instance, but you still have to understand like your retention period, your long-term retention period, your cost, and all that, right? Do you want your backups to get copied to a different region? Then you have to pay more, and if you do not do that, what's the outcome? And then you can leave. When you go to Azure SQL Server and Azure VM, you see I put a footnote with number 2, means yes, I can give some of this Microsoft to do it, or I can keep the control on myself. If I give it to Microsoft with the SQL Server ISA agent extension, also there are some limitations. So you have to know those limitations before you want to automate those by, let Microsoft do it. There are some data files limit or all that. Like I said, I'm not going to read this, but you definitely want to understand. One other thing that I often see that the data professionals get confused when you are moving to PaaS services, except SQL Server and Azure VM, there is no major version anymore. So I cannot say that I want to go to Azure SQL database, but I want SQL Server 2019 or SQL Server 2022. That concept does not exist. Yes, you can still set your compatibility level, but you cannot say what major version you want. So you definitely want to familiarize yourself with compatibility level and what are the things that get controlled by the compatibility level. You should know, and even you should know this for on premises nowadays, because I can upgrade to SQL Server 2022 and still keep my default compatibility level to 2019. So this is equally important for on premises and cloud, but it becomes more important in cloud. So you definitely want to familiarize yourself. And Microsoft actually pushing the vendors to certify their product based on compatibility level, not on the major versions anymore. So I just remind, if you have any questions, comments, and if you think I'm going too fast, you can put in the chat. I'm watching it, so put it there. And also the host can probably look at those and stop me if I need to. So because I just don't want to talk about the things that I prepared, I want to make sure that I cater to to your need, that whatever questions or comments you have. Okay, so other some of the key factors that you have to take into consideration, uh, you know, uh, when you're doing migration, because I'll show you a bunch of different tools, bunch of different ways to do the same thing. Now, how do you decide that which one is better for you, right? So you need to know how many servers you're talking about, right? Are you talking about hundreds, thousands, or just talking about just to start with one or two? Size of your database, as you saw in the previous slide, that there are some size limitations with the maximum database size and also the individual files. Do you have downtime? Because can you do offline migration, uh, or or you have to do online migration? Because I'll have some news for you at the when I go to the demo. If you do not have downtime and you're trying to go to Azure SQL PaaS database, then you definitely have some limitations, right? So you probably have to be creative over there. But if you're going to a SQL Server managed instance or Azure SQL on VM, you are in for luck. So we'll talk about those. Uh, if you're deploying into PaaS model, uh, do you want to deploy as a single database, or you want to deploy as elastic pool? So those of you who do not know, I'll just give you a 1 minute definition of this. So a single database, I will have a dedicated resource for that one database. Doesn't matter how many database I have into the logical SQL Server. Each database is going to have its own resource for compute, for IO, and for memory. But elastic pool I can use if I have a business all around the world, I want to save some money, or I have non-production environment that is not busy 24/7. I can take some resources, I can put it in the pool, and I can bundle bunch of databases to share those resources. That way I can keep my cost down. So you definitely want to look at that. If any of you are thinking to go to cloud to save money, I would warn you, be cautious, be careful. If that's your only reason, I would want you to think about it again, to look at the cost, how you can save cost. That's absolutely, that becomes a whole another talk how to keep your costs down. When you go to the purchasing model, now you have different models again here. So there are a couple of things I'm talking about. uh, and yes, I understand, we did not do this on premises, like as I said at the beginning, but as we have more options, we should really explore, so we can decide what is the optimal solution for us, and how we can keep the cost down. If you are not doing those, you're going to regret, and you have to come back and redo this. That's why you might think this is too complicated. It is not. It's just, if you're new, you don't, once you start using this will become very easy for you, but you have to think through all this before you make a final design. So you can go with the vCore model, or you can go something called DTU, database transaction unit model, or serverless model. So with the vCore, you can see exactly how many vCore you have, how much memory you are getting, and what is your maximum IOPS. With the database transaction unit, it's kind of a mashed. You cannot see really. It's all bundled together. So they tell you you get 10 DTU. So what does that mean for us? Like, what are you talking about? So it's the abstraction of compute, memory, and IO. So when first Azure SQL Database was released in PaaS model, we only had DTU model a couple of years ago, and people like, I don't understand this. I need to know exactly how many core, how much memory you're getting. So then Microsoft came with the virtual, the vCore model, and now there is another one called serverless model. Again, you need to understand what's a serverless model, because uh, from the onset it might seem appealing to you, because you can save some money. But if your workload doesn't uh, work with the serverless model, your users are going to complain, because this thing go to standby mode, and then when you first try to connect, it again assign resources to you, so you can save money, but they have to have the logic in your app to do some retry and all that. So you need to understand. So this is again a chart I copy pasted. I didn't create this. Kind of explains to you, like, if you have a minimum number of vcore is 1, my maximum is 4, so I'll never go more than 4. But if I'm inactive for an hour, which Microsoft promised last time, during the conference, they said they're trying to reduce this time, so you do not have to be quiet for an hour to go to pause mode. And when you're in pause mode, you're not paying anything. Then when you are trying to connect again, you start paying again. So it's a good thing, but you need to know your workload. And then within the vCore and the DTU, you have different service tier also, right? So again, there are general purpose, there are business critical, and there is hyperscale service tier. Uh, and just to give you an example, if you go compare between general purpose and business, you are paying more for business critical, but then you are getting better hardware. You also get some built-in high availability and disaster recovery solution, um, but you are paying more. So you need to understand what you need, what is the RPO, RTO expected by your business owners, and you give them the price. You tell them, hey, yes, I can provide you that, but then you're going to pay this much. If they're paying the bill, go for it. Okay, so I'm going to switch gear a little bit. And when you look at this slide, some of you might think this is a little bit out of sequence, right? This slide. And I really, I thought about it a lot. I'm really, I couldn't find a better place to put it. During the demo, and when you practically start working on this, you'll hear about these two terms a lot: backpack and backpack. So they are, I already put it. What is it? They are just a file extensions, but basically a backpack file has your schema and your data together, and a backpack is just a schema. And a Visual Studio project, you can do it from Azure Data Studio. Even if you do a click migration for using SSMS SQL Server Management Studio for a very tiny database to play with, they will create one of these files behind the scene. And there are other tools, command line SQL package.exe can do that, and I'll show you this in the demo. There is another paper from Learn website about transaction log rate governance, which I talked before. Again, this is something, if you do not measure before you start migration, and later on, you might get some grief. So I put another paper here for you to read and understand. Now, on premises, a SQL Server database or a SQL Server engine comes with many different features, right? Reporting service. I know some of the binaries got separated a couple of years ago, but we will still have analysis service, reporting service, SQL Server agent. We use all this. Um, so I just put a list here, uh, and this is not a comprehensive list, right? Uh, just what kind of high availability solution you're using, log shipping, always an availability group, and whatnot. Now, when you are moving to a different platform to cloud, you need to know what you have and where you are moving to and how you're going to move these services. Because today, you will see that when I spin up Azure SQL Database in PaaS model, I do not have a SQL Server agent. I do not have a MSDB database. I cannot see TempDB. There's a TempDB behind the scene. I do not see a model database. Uh, if I go to managed instance, I see some of this. Microsoft has integration service. Microsoft has a partner service for this in cloud, right? So you go to Azure Data Factory, with the Azure SSIS runtime. Also, there is a migration tool from SSIS to Azure Data Factory. You might want to start looking at that if you want to rewrite those. There is for reporting service, there is RDL migration tool to migrate to Power BI. So you might want to take advantage of this latest and greatest services. Now here I'm talking about that you lack of services in Azure, but on the flip side, we have more features in Azure that we didn't have on premises, right? I listed some of this. Again, I'm not going to talk about all this, that you can take advantage. So you should also think about other way, that now I have all this latest greatest and this fancy stuff, how I can take advantage of this, especially on the security world, right? You have auditing, you have Defender for Azure SQL, you have Ledger, and all of this itself can be a long talk. So you should definitely get yourself familiar and take advantage of this. Like we know query store. Now there are a couple of solutions built on top of query store in Azure SQL, in Azure, like query performance insight, that already aggregate all this for you, and you can deep dive. You can automatically scale up and down, right? You can have a function app, or you can have Azure automation runbook, that based on your requirement you can have alerts. Say, okay, now the demand is going up, and then you call Azure function, uh, and then you can scale it up, right? Imagine, like old days, when you order a server, you order from a reseller or from the vendor, it comes to your data center, you stack it, rack it, then you're stuck pretty much for 3 to 5 years, right? You don't have those limitations right now. So be aware of those. So we talked about features, we talked about what are the things we should consider. Say now we talked with our partners, we kind of know what do we want to, where do we want to go. Now how do we go there, right? What kind of tools we have? So I kind of listed here with a heading, as you can see. For discovery and access, you're going to use the tools on the left side, and for migration, you're going to do it on the right. Now, some of these you see on both sides, so you're like, what's going on here? So Azure Migrate. So because Azure Migrate, you can use for both. You can migrate for discovery, assessment, and then you can use that for migration too, same as the data migration assistant. And some of these we'll see in action today. And I also, in the reference slide I have at the end, I put a lot of links for you on this that will explain all of these tools. And of course, you'll see some of this in action. Now, I listed like 6, 7 tools. Now you might be wondering, oh gosh, now how do I know, which one is what, right? What I need for myself. So this is another page, from the Learn website that you can go, and it actually go very deep into comparing SQL data migration tools. So you can read those, and then you can, test by yourself. Of course, you have to know, and like I said, you have many factors. How big are your databases are, how many servers, and are you doing a lift and shift, or you are rewriting your apps to be cloud native and all that. So many factors will decide, but this is a good one to read. And this is pretty much a copy paste from that page that I was talking about. So as you can see, if you go on the left side, see what you need, right? I need to migrate open source database MySQL, Postgres, MariaDB, and so on, I can use this, as you can see in the green here, right? So this is kind of a summary, just to give you a head start. But again, you absolutely want to read and you want to understand a lot better. One thing based on my experience, I found out that migrating your schema is not the biggest challenge. Yes, you might have syntax or some of your objects that will fail when you try to publish to a target in Azure. But you can always, go and see what is failing, what is the error message. You can rewrite those, right? And you can deploy. Schema is not the problem. I think the challenge comes with data, right? Because inherently, like I'm in Boston right now, if I have to go to the closest region is East US 2, inherently there is about 20 millisecond latency, right? Even with the express route, right? Because you're traveling a long distance. And you cannot do much about it, you know. Yes, you can have express route, fat pipe, but still there will be some inherent latency. So that is and like I'll show you, right? Like Microsoft made a lot of improvement on the online migration, so database size doesn't matter anymore. But there are destinations that where you still cannot do online migration, you have to do offline. That means you need to have downtime. And so I wrote here a bunch of tools. All of these have pros and cons, expense wise, some other limitations. Sometimes you must have a primary key. You cannot have this kind of data type if you want to do this and that. So familiarize yourself, right? You can set up like transaction applications. As I said here, you have limitation on publishing objects, right? So you need to know those. But if you're doing a small databases, probably not a big deal. There are other tools you can even use, Visual Studio, bulk export, import, whatnot, right? But yeah, read these tools and see what works for you. If you really have huge database, Microsoft also has something called Azure Data Box, and I put a link here that you can go and read about it. This is pretty much a device they send you. You load your data, you send it to them, and they will attach it, and then you can just copy it from there. Again, it takes days, right? You can do express shipping and all that. Is still we're talking about days. But if you don't have any other choice, this is one of the options you have. And this is one of the picture. Now they also now have a data box gateway, which can constantly, without you shipping the data, in a device, you can actually put that gateway. It's kind of software, and then you can transmit it to cloud to the Azure data center, or you can do offline. Like I said, they have 3 different flavor depending on the size. It can go up to, I think, data box heavy is a 1 petabyte, and I think usable is a 800 terabyte, I believe. So you can load 800 terabyte, ship it, they will attach it for you. And with that, nice. So yeah, so I took about 30 minutes, as I said. I'm going to move to demo. And so I'm going to switch some stuff. So give me a minute. I am going to make it a little bit bigger. Looks like you might have. Is that good enough or? Okay, if someone thinks I should make it a little bit bigger, let me know. I can make it, yeah, the fonts. So the tool that you are seeing on the page right now is called Azure Data Studio. This is written by Microsoft. It's a multi-platform tool. Thank you. It's a multi-platform tool. You can use it in Windows, Linux, and I'm using a notebook. And I'm not going to go into notebook. What's a notebook? If you do not know, just search, uh, Jupyter notebooks, and you will see there are a lot of how to get it started. It has different kernels. I'm using a PowerShell kernel. So in summary, I can write comments. I can write my my commands, and I can run those. I can save the output, and I can send it to someone if they need to. And we'll be using a lot of tools. So in the interest of time, what I did, and I wrote a lot of comments for all of you, because I'm not going to go through this line by line, because otherwise we'll be here for hours. I wrote, said, what this script is going to do, some of the reference that I took help, and for all my demos, you need all of this. Yes, it's a long list, and I'm sorry about that, because I wanted to show you as many things as I can, so you can compare and contrast and decide what you need for your environment. And so I'm not going to read this, like I said. And I ran all this morning before you came online. As you can see, the outputs are here. And I ran all the way, down somewhere here. So if you are to run my script as is, there are very few changes you have to do. I'm going to show you those. Make sure you have the prerequisites. You have your subscription ID, your tenant ID, and if you don't like my names, you can put your own names, right? I have my initial TLE. Once you put your names here, change those. Down from here, you do not need to touch. This should work, right? This should work as is. Now, the question for all of you, and if you're shy, you do not answer, I'm just going to pick my choices. Let me come here. Yeah. So I have all these demos I prepared. If anybody wants to see anything particular, before I go through the sequence, you can put in the chat. I'll show those first. And if you're shy, if you do not put anything, then I'll pick mine. And I'll probably go for another half an hour, and then I'll take questions, comments at the end. But if you see anything in this list you definitely want to see, you tell me, put in the chat, and I'll go through those first. I'm not going to show all. It's going to take probably over an hour. Okay. So if you're not doing that, if nobody's okay, you say just a second. Is that, should I stop or? Okay, no. Okay, so what did I do with that script, right? So with that script, I created a resource group. Resource group is again a logical container. Uh, Once I'm done with this demo today, I can just go and delete my resource group, and it will delete all my resources. I do not have to go and delete one by one, right? And these are all the resources that I created. I have a SQL Server, which is a virtual container. I have a bunch of databases. I also have a virtual machine, which has SQL Server Engine 2022 that we're going to use today. And then I also have a migration service. I have a migrate project. I have a storage account. I did all this for, to do the demos. So the first one I'm going to do, if someone have never done a migration and they just want to get a feeling for this. So for this to work, you definitely have to have a logical server, and which I put the PowerShell function or PowerShell command in the notebook that you can create a SQL server. And I have created one. As you can see, this is a Azure SQL Server. This is a VM. This is sitting in my laptop. So you can consider this as your on-premises SQL Server. Now, I have a couple of databases here. They are empty. I created this for different demos. So I can come here. I have AdventureWorks. This is a Microsoft demo database. I have instructions where you can download this. I can just come here, right click, task, and I can say this, deploy this to Azure SQL database as Azure SQL database as a PaaS model. I do not have to do anything, no code. I do not have to write anything. But I have to connect to a Azure SQL Server, which you see over there. I'm going to connect to that one. and I can give it a name like AdventureWorks demo. Now, one tip here, whenever you do any migration, keep your target, give it a bigger size so it gets bigger compute, memory, and IOPS. That way your migration time is less. Once you're done migrating, then you can scale down to whatever your workload needs, right? That always will help you. Like this is a tiny one. I probably don't need this for my workload, but I'm still going to do this. And if you remember, I talked about backpack and backpack. You see what it is doing behind the scene? It's actually creating a backpack file. And you can take that backpack file instead of if you do not want to do the migration, right? And you can do it in different ways that we'll talk about. So this is now going to extract everything and it is going to create a new database right here, which you will see. So you're not going to wait here and see this is spinning. I'll come back and I'll show you that. Any question on this? Okay, no. Okay, so we have seen the SQL Server Management Studio. Data Migration Assistant tool has been around for a long time. And this is a tool, it is not just for migration to cloud. It is actually useful even if you're doing on-premises upgrade or migrations, right? I don't know if you ever used it, because you can have a target from, say, SQL Server 2016 to SQL Server 2022, and you can assess your database for issues, for incompatibility, or something that is going to prohibit you to upgrade. And you can also take a trace of your workload and you can put that workload, that trace file, and it is going to analyze and tell you that if you run this workload against 2022, you're going to get some issues or no, everything looks good. So it's a very powerful tool. So let's go and look at some of this stuff there. So we're going to do a migration, and you can also just do assessment if you want to do both. You can do both in one go. If you just want to do assessment and you're not ready for migration, you just want to see if you have any issues with migration, you do not have to do migrate. You can just do a assessment. So let's do a migration right now. Our source is SQL Server. I can choose my targets. I can do Azure SQL Database, managed instance, or I can do another on-premises SQL Server. So in this case, we're just going to do Azure SQL Database. I can choose, do I do schema and data, schema only, or data only? So let's do both. Create. And this is my source. This is my laptop. I can connect. So now I have the 6 databases. I can do all or I can do one. So I'm just going to do AdventureWorks just for the sake of time. And now it is saying, what's my target? Interesting. Create a new Azure SQL database. Okay, so I need to get my server name. I thought it should retain this from my demo this morning, from my test this morning. It did not. Because I've been testing this for the last 2 days. So, okay. So it has found a database called AdventureWorks demo, which I'm already using. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use this one. DMA database migration assistant. I created a empty shell, through the scripts. And behind the scenes, pretty simple. It actually creates a whole script for your schema that you can take and you can deploy in many other ways that you like. So once it creates, then we can say deploy schema, and then we can choose whether we want to migrate data. It also gives me option. If I know that some of my objects are not compatible, I can comment out those parts of the script. If you have any question, please put it in the chat. Okay. So we'll go back and see that. So we have seen the management studio. We have seen the data migration assistant. And one thing I'll tell you, Azure Database Migration Service and Azure Data Studio extension, Azure SQL migration. In terms of migration, they pretty much use the same features. If you want to do in a large scale, you want to go from here, from the Azure Database Migration Service. If you want to do one or two, then this is probably a good place. So let me show you both. Okay, so as you can see here now, it created a schema, which is going to say deploy schema, is going to deploy this. And this is still working, the one that we did from the SSMS. So we have now two migrations running at the same time. So a good question. Sorry if my question is too primitive. No question is too primitive. Yeah, I don't consider any question as primitive. It's a very good question. A lot of people still get confused, old backup and restore. So unfortunately, if you are going to, which I'll show you that I'm going to use the native backup, which is coming. If I'm going to a Azure SQL VM, I can use native backup. If I'm going to a PaaS model, platform as a service, I cannot use native backup and restore. It will depend on the destination, right? With some of the destination, yes, we can still use our old-fashioned backup and restore, which I'll do. With some, we cannot. Okay, so we have two going in. Let's go to portal for a minute. Okay, you're welcome. Yeah. So with Azure Migrate, as you can see, I have a project called TLE Azure Migrate, right? Now here, if I have a large state that I want to go discover, assess what is ready for migration, what are the platforms that I can migrate to, you should be using this. And I only added one, which is Microsoft's native, discovery and assessment, and it will tell you how to do this. But there are other tools, some are third-party tools that you can use to do, these tasks. So this is for enterprise scale. But if you say, no, I'm just testing, I want to do one or two, as you saw, we can do with the DMA. We can also do through Azure Data Studio. Oh, sorry, let me show you something else. So there's something also called, if I go back to my resource group, I also have something called migration service, which you need for any kind of migration because you need some compute. Okay. So I can start a new migration from here. I can monitor it. I can also start it from the Azure Data Studio, but I'll be able to see it from here. So let's do that, and then okay, I'm going to go back here. Okay, this is still chugging along. Now with Azure Data Studio, one tool, but it can do many things via extension. So it comes very lightweight. If you need certain functions, features, you can always enable a extension, do the work. When you are done, you can disable the extension. So right now, if I go to the extension and if I type migrate, there's something called Azure SQL migration, right? And I have this extension enabled globally. Because now I have this extension enabled globally, if I go to my on-premises default instance, I see this button called Azure SQL Migration. If you do not have the extension enabled, you wouldn't see that. So I'm just letting you know. And so let's hide this. Let's hide this, get some space. Now I'm saying I want to do a migration. Start a new session. Next. I can do the assessment here. Next. Again, I'm just going to do the adventure works in the interest of time. I can also, what I told you before, I can point to a extended event trace with my workload that it will analyze based on whatever destination I choose. So this can assess my database plus the workload. You can change some of the parameters. You can also, how do you know that what size of Azure SQL database I need, right? What SKU I need, what size of Azure VM I need, what type of hyperscale machine that I need, right? For compute and all that. So what you can do, you can actually live start data collection and you can run it for days based on your workload. It will tell you that what kind of target you need, right? What kind of size you need. But you have to be careful, right? Because sometimes you might be running some workload just once a month. So if you're not running this for a whole month, it's not going to capture that. So be careful with that. So now this is saying that this adventure work can go to Azure SQL Database. It can go to managed instance. It can also go to virtual machine. Okay, so I say next. Now pay attention here. If I choose the Azure SQL Database, I cannot use backup restore and I cannot do online migration. I can only do offline migration, means my application is going to be down for the whole period. If I choose this too, so I choose this, I can do a online migration. And what do I mean by that? I'll show you. Sorry, default directory. It's pretty smart. It find my resource group. It even found my virtual machine that I created. And now I'm doing an online migration. So this is like, I'm sure you have done this probably on premises. If you have been working on premises for, for a while, that you start a day or like 2 days before, you do a full backup with, restore with no recovery, you do a differential, you keep putting your T-logs, and then when the time comes, you shut down your app, make sure nothing is connected, take a final T-log, restore with recovery, and then you cut over. So you minimize the downtime. So now we have the same capability for some of the destinations. So the size of the database doesn't matter. But for Azure SQL Database PaaS model, it still matters because we cannot do online migration. So I'm doing online migration and I'm saying my backup. So I'm using my native backup are in a Azure storage blob container and or a network share. So let me show you what I did. And I did all this before you came online just to save some time. I have a storage account. I have a container. And I have a full backup and a transaction log backup. I didn't take a differential backup. And I have put the code here, uh, which I'll show you later on. It's a T-SQL, right? You pretty much have to have a credential. There's something called shared. Um, you have to create a credential, and then you can even today, if you just have a storage account and you create credential, you can actually ship your backup to the cloud. So here, so you continuously keep taking your backup, and you can start the migration on the side. So okay. It's a little bit confusing for me. By downtime, you mean the app that using this database is going to have downtime? Yes, yes. So with online migration, what I'm doing right now, I do not need downtime for the whole period because I'm doing your online migration means I can start it before, and I'll show you. Let me finish this, see if this answers your question. So you're doing your online migration here. Next. So my backups are right here. I have a full backup and I have a transaction log backup. Now I say next. And I say start the migration, right? So if we go to the portal right now, what do we see? Monitor migrations. So it is creating a migration right now. And then what it will do, it will go to my storage account. It will restore the full backup with no recovery. And then it will start deploying the transaction logs with no recovery. Means my application is still connected. I'm up and running the business. And we'll see this once, after a few minutes. Yeah, we'll see it here. I don't know if I should have deleted that database before because I was testing something else, but we'll see what happened. So let's go back and see what's going on with the other two migrations that we've been doing. Okay, so this one is done, right? So if we go here, right, AdventureWorks demo, this is my Azure SQL database. It copied all the tables with data from AdventureWorks. So we close this. And then we are doing one from here. So we deployed all the schema, and I can redeploy if I made any change, or I can say migrate data. And here I can choose what tables I want to migrate data, or I can just let it, do all. So I can see start data migration. But again, if this is a huge database, this is probably not the best way to migrate your your tables. Uh, okay, so let's see what's going on here right now. It failed because I had the database. I did not delete it. So that's probably my, okay. So what I'm going to do is still have time. I should have pick another name or do that. So let me delete this. Let me go here. let's quickly set up another one. This was my bad. I should have thought about that. Okay, good. Online backups are there. Okay, sorry about that. So we'll go back and we refresh this. We should see a new one. So let's see what happened this time. Okay, yeah, because it could not, I don't know what happened. So we'll see. Because I think I had the database name already there. Uh, so let me go back here, show you a couple of things. If you want to take backup directly to storage account, I have the, actually, let me get rid of all the outputs so I don't have to scroll that much. Yeah, so once you have a credential, you can use this T-SQL to, that's how I took the backups to the storage account. The next one is there's also a command line tool called SQL package.exe. If you're not familiar with this, just look up. It can do a bunch of things for you. So what I've done here, I'm going to create a backpack file just in C temp. Again, I'm taking it from a local instance, the Adventure Works. And then if we go to our folder here, we should see that file pretty soon once it's done. And then what you're going to do is, I have two different ways. One, I can move this file to the storage account and you can restore from there, or I can directly restore from my local location to the Azure SQL database. So if some of you just have smaller size databases and you do not want to use Azure Data Studio, you just want to, just do it from command line, this is another option. Yeah, so the file is here right now. As you see, just got created. My time is 1:33. This is my local time. And now what I can do, let's see if it's still writing to it or no. Okay, it's done. And so we're going to restore this to our Azure SQL Server, and we'll come back and see that. Okay, so let's go to our list and see which one I have done, which one I haven't done. So just to make sure that I'm on track, and I'm probably going to show just the last one, and then I'll take questions. Okay, so we've done the SQL Server Management Studio, Data Migration Instance, Azure Data Studio, which is running right now. I'll show you, the online migration to the end, SQL package, and then I'll show you the Visual Studio one. I think that'll be it. So if we go here right now, we'll see that. Okay, so it says ready for cutover, right? And I was talking about online migration, and Sasan said, it's a little bit confusing. So till now, it's restoring, right? So my application is up. I'm constantly taking transaction log, and as soon as it sees a new transaction log, it is going to restore here without recovery. And say now I decided, okay, so 1:35 downtime starts. So it's a shutdown application. make sure nothing is connecting. I take a last transaction log backup, and then it did that. So now you see it says ready for cutover because it cannot find any more new transaction log. So now if I go to view migration details, I say complete cutover. And we can do this also from Azure Data Studio. And it actually, I have to click and say confirm there is no additional log backups. Means I'm pretty sure, because once you recover, as you should know if you're working with SQL Server or pretty much any relational database, once you recover, you cannot apply any more logs. So now I said, yes, I'm done. Complete cutover. So now it is going to restore with recovery, right? And then you can bring your application up. Sajan, I don't know if that answered your question, your last question that you said you're a little bit confused. So with this process, does the database size matter? It does not. Even if I have a 10 terabyte database, I can start the migration the day before and just take a very tiny downtime to cut over. Okay, so this will, this will do, and then it will do the roll forward, roll back, and then we should be able to see that this database will become available for use. It's done, as you can see here. So now you bring your application up. Okay, good. I think we still have, okay, we're done with that one. Okay, so we're done with all the ones that we've been doing. The last one I want to show you is a Visual Studio. What I'm going to show you right now, this is another merit that when I build this project and I deploy, I can identify that if I have objects that are not computable for Azure SQL database. So I say I'm going to create a new object, new project, and solution, start, don't save. I might have one already done. Okay. And this is not taking your data, just so you know, this will be strictly schema only. Finish. I can do a build. And now I can deploy or publish. I'm going to do it to my Azure SQL database, Azure SQL Server. And one thing Microsoft still did not fix is it's things that even though I'm doing it from SQL Server 2022, still it thinks that it's in compatible platforms. So you have to do this, and I have put this into the comment, and I can say publish. Once it publish, we should see that in this database we will have all the objects from the AdventureWorks, but we will not have the data. Uh, Visual Studio has a built-in data compare. You can do that. You can do, like I said, data is something that you will always have to figure out by yourself, because there are many ways to do it depending on the size of your database, right? So now it's creating all these objects right here, as you can see, and it should finish in any time. So I'm pretty much done. I could have shown more with the Azure Data Studio or with the migration service, but you get the idea. You can try many other different flavors with the SQL managed instance. You can even try offline migration. I've shown you the online one. SQL package.exe also has another flavor. I put it there. You can test all this. So it says publish completed successfully. If we now go here, as you can see, and you will not see any data there. As I said, we are not migrating any data. We are just migrating the schema here. As you see that there is no data. So let's go back to the slides again. And so these are a couple of references that I put. If you want to read a little bit more, you can go through this. And again, my contacts, as I said, if you have any question, comments, you can definitely send those to me and I'll answer. And then I want to thank everyone, all the attendees and organizers again. I will hang out for a little bit longer. Again, anyone has any questions, you want me to go back to any of the previous demos, code, I'll find a way to send this to the speaker, to the organizers so they can share. You can download, I'll try to get it done by tomorrow. Is a Sunday, is a good before Monday. You can download from a GitHub repo and then, go ahead and use it. And then if you have any questions, send it to me. So, yes, I'll stop talking. I'll let Said to take over.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tayob. A lot of great information. And I believe if someone wants to start the migration process, it's really important to learn more about best practices and different tools that are available to do these kind of tasks. Yeah, you explain all of them one by one, and it was really great. Thank you so much. Uh, yeah, I'm not sure if there is any more questions, but I have one question which is related to the SQL and Azure SQL servers, but it's not really related to the migration.
That's
So the
fine. Yeah.
yeah, the question is, so when we go with basically the sync part of this between SQL servers. So imagine that we have SQL servers in on-premise side, and also we are going to sync this SQL server or databases to Azure. So what kind of tools, services, or options do we have to achieve this task?
So are you going to a managed instance or a SQL Server on Azure VM or a PaaS
Uh,
model, right?
yeah, exactly. So basically, I need to you give the learners in a general way
Yeah.
what kind of services and tools we have in Azure.
So in PaaS today, as of today, there is still no way to do a online migration. This is Microsoft knows this. There has been huge community feedback, right? And also, can native backup restore work at the beginning, right? To initial. So these are, I think, Microsoft knows this. There's Azure Data Sync service. Again, a lot of restrictions with the data type, primary keys. You can set up transactional replication for migration. Again, restriction. You cannot do everything. So that's why I said if you are going to Azure SQL database mode, you have some challenges with the data. Schema is not the problem. And if you can afford downtime, of course, bravo, right? I can just do the smaller tables with some GUI tool. I can do the big ones. Uh, BCP out, BCP in is still one of the old tool that we've been using. Works perfect, and do that. But if it's huge and you do not have downtime, you have to be creative, and it will depend on your maybe couple of tables you have to set up replication, and the rest of those you do when you cut over, right?
Hmm.
And now the one that you are doing, probably those are the large ones. You have to start a couple of hours or days before, let it go, and then so you can keep the downtime to a minimum. But Microsoft has solved the problem with the managed instance and SQL VM. Now we have online migration works seamless, so the size doesn't matter, as I showed you, as long as your backup is going to a share or to a Azure storage account. It finds continuously restoring it. Works perfect. Cut
Amazing.
over 10 minutes. That's it.
Yeah, great insight. Thank you so much, man.
You're welcome. Welcome.
Yeah, amazing. So, if there is any questions, please let us know. Tayobi is here with us to answer your questions. Otherwise, I would thank you, Tayob, for this session. And this recorded session will be available in the our YouTube channel. So, there is another question from Sasan.
Yeah. Does the access tier to storage blob matters for this? I mean, if you are taking your backups directly over there, you will have to, there's something called shared access signature. You can create credentials with the expiration date, so you're not leaving it open. um, and what account and exactly for how much time you can do that. Some people take backups on premises to a share or wherever, and then there are other tools that you can migrate, right? You can there is something called, I didn't show you, which I had ready for you, that there's something called Azure Storage Explorer, which is also, you can take your backups from on premises and you can take it to your storage account. But your storage account has to have the right access, yes, for sure. Because otherwise, you don't want anybody and everybody to come to your storage account and steal stuff from you. There are AZ copy, which is a PowerShell module function. You can use that if you are taking it. So it depends on what you want to do. Like I showed you, I have code that I can directly take it to the storage account in the container. So if your backup is continuously writing there, the migration service is looking, oh, I have a new transaction log, let me restore. New one, let me restore. And then when you have downtime started, you cut over, nothing is writing, last T-log backup, you say, yes, I guarantee you I don't have any more T-log backup. It does a restore the recovery, then you're back into business. But to answer your question, yes, you have to manage access and make sure the right ports are open and all that. Yes, because you do not want it to like be open to the whole world, right? Yeah.
Great.
And I don't know. Sorry, I'm just going to add. So maybe you did not ask about the. Maybe when you said exist, I'm not sure if we did this storage also, there's hot, cold, and archive tier. I'm not sure if you meant by that. So that's something, again, some stuff, some tiers cost you more money if you are going to use it from there, and less money to store it. Some are more money to store it but less to access it. So it all depends what you need, right? People sometimes they do is they keep 30 days in the hot tier and they move it to cold, and then they move it to archive tier that they will never use, and then start purging from archive tier. You can do all this with with the AZ module, has different sub modules, and with a PowerShell, or you can have Azure Functions, you can have Azure Automation Runbooks, uh, you know, even to move your stuff and keep your costs down. So
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Tayyub. I think it's time to wrap up this session. And
thank you,
yeah,
thank you,
wish you a great weekend, you and also audiences, and also hope to see you everyone in the next session that we have next week. So wish you a great weekend and take care.
thank you. Bye.
Bye.